Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery, and with the help of my spirit guides, it's time to trust your intuition. Sit with me and call in live 888-994-4995 Studio A. And now onto the show.
Once again. Hi everybody, welcome to my show. I have some amazing guests in the audience today. So I'm going to, first of all, let me thank everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate my audience. And without a question, I'm only as good, and I often say this, as the question, so please give us a call. My number here in the studio is 888-994-4995 Studio A. So please call. Okay, I'm just going to start, as I often do, because people like to listen to part of what I had written in my book. This is prose. Actually, I'm looking at the date, November the 12th, 2006. So I wrote this a very long time ago. This is when all these things started happening to me. Listen, what is documented within our subconscious? Often we ask what we do not remember, for it is only we who have the answers. Listen to your thoughts. Listen to your dreams. Answers are all around you. The words. People who are in our surroundings, they all do have hidden messages. Sleep and you dream. Think and you have thoughts. Walk and you will find. Hear and you see what is to be. For my children, we are all blessed with this. What wonders are buried within our soul that we call our subconscious? It holds our time from the beginning. Understand now. Listen, think, feel, go in peace. Just to explain a little bit about this, I had no idea what I was writing. Today, and I think I have mentioned this before, it begins to make a little more sense many, many years later. But I did this the same way that I did my drawings at that time. I had no idea what I was drawing. I'd look at the piece of paper or canvas, and then I'd suddenly see, as I guess I'm in a trance, which I kind of am now. I don't usually mention that, but I am a little bit not here. So questions are welcome. Well, I mean, I'm here, Dawn. I know it came out a little bit strange. But okay, so please, anybody in the audience, give me a question, or anybody, please feel free to call in. On with the show.
She's not here. So where are you?
I'm in another dimension, Freddie. I'm glad you asked. Because actually, that's a good topic. Energy from other dimensions.
Multiple dimensions. Simultaneous dimensions, or are these dimensions separate?
Well, they are actually, everything is going on at the same time. So dimensions are all, they're just on, it's a different frequency. So the more we tune in, we kind of graduate from one frequency to another. But, you know, that can take lifetimes. It can take one lifetime that we do this, because we're all in training right now. We're all learning. So the more we learn, we change our energy and frequency, and that attracts people from that frequency, which I'm sure everybody sitting in the cafe now sees that happen. We see that. We're talking about something, and then a guest comes in with the same topic that we've just been talking about. And they'll understand frequency and dimension. So that's kind of really important. It's
but Sally, does it mean we're in two places at one time, 3, 4, 5 places at one time?
We are. We just don't know it.
So then riddle me this. If I'm sitting here and I'm going through what I'm going through, am I going through something else in another dimension?
Yes.
Then how come I can only remember this dimension?
Because you'd be going crazy if you remembered them all. You can't. We only remember what we're able to. As you graduate, so to speak, then what I'm saying, and to me it sounds very strange, of course it does, we don't understand that. We're in many places at the same time. So,
and the physicality of the other places, is it the same as this physicality?
Well, it depends where you are, because there's many, many different frequencies and dimensions. I mean, we have been many lives. This is my belief, and I totally believe this. We come in with we actually erase our memory. How that's done, I have no answer to that, but we do. So we come in not remembering, because if we started to remember everything, unless you're ready to remember, you're not going to, because it won't serve its purpose here in this life today, if that makes sense.
Okay, are we both physically and mentally in different dimensions?
Yes.
At
But
the
there's
same
only a
time?
part, there's many aspects of ourselves, Jay, and that's a good show, because we're here and we know what's going on, and we remember in this lifetime, not always, but we remember from children what we've done, because we have a subconscious and it goes into our subconscious.
Right.
But as you graduate out of this dimension, and it can take 100 years, I don't know, there's no time, but in time, if we want to present time, it takes a long time to graduate. It's like being in school. And then you go to another dimension, but the more that you understand and the more that you learn, what we're talking about right now does not make sense to us. I mean, I talk about it, and I've been studying as much as I can and listen to my guides, and Aldo too, explain that. In the beginning, it seems like utter stupidity. Like I said, I'm not here, I believe, just now, because I'm really somewhere else. But I also know that I'm here because I have to be aware of my surroundings. But the more we learn, the more what I'm talking about, because I don't understand it. I understand some of it, that's how I'm able to talk about it. It makes more sense to us, if that makes sense. So, you know, there was a movie out, and I really do want to watch it again. I think it won awards. Everywhere, Always, or something at the same time.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
That's right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
That was what it was talking about, and things happening all at the same time.
And that's exactly, that came to my mind just now as you said that. And the only reason that I can tune into that is that I do have an open mind, and I do believe it, and I want to learn more. It doesn't just suddenly, I woke up one day and yes, I was different, but I know much more from the 20 years ago that this happened now in this lifetime, because I've opened up more. I've opened my frequencies up, and I also have an open mind to this, which is very important. And even what I was talking about 20 years ago that I didn't understand makes more sense to me today. But I'm further on in my journey, as everybody is. And it's up to us as an individual, if you want to further that journey in this lifetime, you find that things will just fall into place. It will be more, it happens more. Synchronicity happens more to you.
So if you're going through a bad time right now, does that mean that you are going dimensionally through bad times in all the other frequencies?
No, not at all, because in other frequencies we are, as I know, I mean, you know, I'm only talking from what I hear and what I feel, and also what Aldo used to tell me a lot, used to say to me that I was somebody else, somewhere else. Well, that's very difficult to understand. You don't necessarily have the same life. You can even be of a different person, you know, a male or a female. It just is. It is.
Okay, so if I'm having a bad day here, that doesn't mean somewhere else I'm having a bad day.
No,
also.
not at all. But then there's another thing called timelines, which if anybody is, and I'm sure most people today that are listening to my show, I'm going to call, are ahead of the game a little bit, so they understand a lot. And we actually change timelines very, very frequently. So what's going on now can be different in another timeline. Again, I keep saying this should be another show, but let's let's do a show about this, the whole show maybe, where you switch a timeline and you see something different. It's very, very subtle. I mean, we're sitting here right now, and if we were to switch a timeline, we may not even be aware of it. But let's say take this branch here on the tree. The only way that you could possibly maybe know that the tree may be, I'm just using that as an example, may be a little different. That means there are little subtle differences. Nothing really that you can, you know, say, well, it can be, but it's not that obvious. So we're switching timelines to suit where we are. For instance, and I've used this before, if someone is having a bad day and they say, oh, my day is going terrible, and it's, you know, it continues to go terrible. So on the positive side, that's that timeline they're on, where many things in that timeline are going to show themselves that are going to be negative, because the universe is not here to, it's here to accept what you're saying. So now if I say I'm having a good day and believe I'm having a good day, I choose a timeline at that point. and my day will go great. This is not coincidence when this happens. It's worked out that way because the universe, to change our timeline and ourselves, only knows what I'm expressing. So if I'm going to continue on the positivity, really, it works. You will continue to have a positive whatever it is that you want. We can manifest that way. But on the flip side, if you're going to continue to say it's not going to happen, even with your health, it will continue not to happen. But the good news is we can change it, if that makes sense.
So you can turn a bad situation into a good situation if you believe in the different frequencies.
Wait, you don't even have to
Or do you
believe
just
that.
take another frequency as you go along?
It's
you don't
happening.
Know it?
We don't have to even understand, Freddie, and that's good, that it is happening. Just believe that it's going to happen. As long as you believe and you think positively, you're going to change your timeline. I mean, I can't prove this, but many people, and I've started listening to what other people talk about because you know, a lot of this I don't understand, but I'm talking about it. So I switch programs. I listen to Gaia TV and YouTube, and they're talking the same way that I'm talking. Now, I don't know. I'm getting messages, and I did hear from Aldo, but to hear other people saying this, it's validation for me too. It's important because I do believe this. I believe it, and I think that's half of the helping you to understand is to have an open mind and believe. And if you're having a bad day, you can change it. But you know what? You've got to believe it. If you're not well, and I was talking, and Steve's listening, well, he's not, he's on an aeroplane, and I've told him this, and he hears it, that if you believe that you can help yourself and get better, you have to believe it. It doesn't just, oh, I'm going to get better, but believe with your whole being. It transfers through your body because your body hears what you're doing. Our cells are listening.
Right, I agree.
So you can make yourself better, but you've got to believe it. You've got to have an open mind, not just say, oh, I think this works, or oh, maybe this will work. Right. No, it's going to work no matter what it is, and it will work. It will.
Yeah.
How do you get people to believe that, though? How do you, when they want concrete answers, as
Good
to why
question.
is this happening?
That's a great question, Dawn. I had to believe it too. I had someone help me in this process, but when I first met Aldo, Adamir, in my book, started to talk this way to me, or it used to bother me. I go, oh, please, and yet a lot of things were happening, and I was saying to myself, well, I guess there's something to it, but I saw amazing things happening to him. So by example, and I hope to do that too, by example. Show people that this is, you know, it doesn't have to be this way. All this hurt in the world, all this, I'm not going to change the world, but one person talks to the next, and that's how you can spread this. I mean, not everybody is open and ready to hear it. And you know what? That's fine. I can't help the whole world, but I can help people face to face to open up their minds.
Well, people have to want to be helped, right?
That's also a good question. Yes, because that's where people have closed minds. Yeah. I can't open a closed mind. I can only go by example. And if they want to, even not necessarily at that point, understand it, but believe that it happened to me, because I can't talk about something that hasn't happened to me, you know, as far as positivity. And you know what? I doubt, of course I doubt too. I'm only human in a human body here. And I find that things don't go that same way when I start to doubt it. So even for myself, I'm an example for myself. But as long as I know about it, that's the main thing, because I have an open mind.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that.
Makes sense?
It's a, you know, just...
That's a guide who always says that. I don't know, but I know he always finishes by making, does that make sense?
By just being human, I mean, we have, we can't just believe all that is happening to us all the time. I mean, we have doubts.
Well, that's part of being human, but that's part of our learning too. I heard something the other day. I can now quote some of the things I've heard. And the person said, it was on the TV, he was talking just like I guess as I'm talking right now, and he said something, and it's gone because I'm trying to explain it more, and I brought myself into it, and I can't remember what I was going to say, but it was very relevant to what we're talking about. It'll come back to me. Ask me another question. Anything.
About moving timelines?
Yeah, but that's also a good question, but it wasn't something that was, it obviously didn't have a big impact because I myself, maybe I brought myself back into, I'm not where I was, but it's coming back now. But again, I can't stress enough to have an open mind. Even if you doubt it, listen to people, listen, turn on a program on television or on YouTube and ask to listen. And some of these things are incredible. Some doctors even come on some of these shows and talk about how they were dying. And then suddenly something came to them and they were fine because they started to open up and realize that you can heal yourself. This is really important to know. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's your time, it's your time. But you can heal yourself. Your body listens.
Can you help change circumstances?
You can help change circumstances for yourself. That's also a good question. Whether you can change somebody else's situation, no. Maybe you can, but I don't believe it's not the right thing to do.
You can't change for somebody else.
No, it's not necessarily the right thing to do. You can only explain to someone, because each and every one of us has free will. We map out our lives, but it doesn't always stay the way that we've mapped it out because we have free will. So we might see something differently, and that's when you jump to another timeline. Well, we jump a lot, actually, into different timelines. But what we're now thinking of something that we were going to do may not go with the timeline that we're on. So we go into another timeline where whatever it was will present itself in that timeline. We don't necessarily know. Most of us don't know. I'm only really understanding a little bit about timelines right now because I've had situations where, for instance, you could lose something. And you could have put it down in your home and you can't find it. But you could be looking right at it. If you switch a timeline, and this has been proven, you're going to see that object right there. I mean, I had a situation many, many years ago. In fact, maybe I'll present that because I didn't know anything about it at that time. But I had moved into a condo. And I'm like fanatic about putting everything away when I'm moving in, even if it takes to 4 o'clock in the morning. I finished putting everything away, and I couldn't, well, it wasn't 4, it was like about 11 o'clock at night. I couldn't find my keys, and I was hungry. I wanted to get in my car to go and get some food because I'd been working on my place all day. Nowhere. I couldn't find my keys. This is not quite a timeline about how this works. So now I'm freaking out. I thought maybe I left them outside, and I'd thrown a lot of my things away. So I thought they could be anywhere. So I went to go and look in the dumpster. But as I came out, my next door neighbor came out, and I've told this story before. This was many years ago. And she said, she introduced herself, and she said, "You just moved in." But I was like, I'm so worried. I can't find my keys anywhere. I need to get in my car, and I'm hungry. So she said to me just the silliest little thing. She said to me, "Go back into your apartment, sit down in front of the refrigerator." I didn't believe any of this, but I did it. She said, "Get a glass of water, like here, fill it up halfway and put it on top of your refrigerator." I thought she was crazy. So I go back into my apartment, sit as clear as day, over 20 years ago. I put this water on top of my refrigerator, and I sat there. And I think I had to say, "Where are my keys? Help me find them." I got up, and I don't use tools. I have them in the place. I get in and see in a closet a little toolbox that I had put away. I open it up, and there are my keys. That is 100%
How did they get there?
I didn't know. And the strange thing is I never saw that lady again. And this is 100% absolutely accurate, and that happened to me. In fact, I told Steve that story the other day. So that's an example of a different timeline. That lady, and it's coming to me very strongly now, knew where my keys were. She knew that I had put them in there. Oh, I knew even from another timeline, but I came back to the one where I had lost them. But I was able to touch that timeline and go and find the keys through a help of a lady that I never saw again, who was my next door neighbor.
It's like time travel.
Yes, very similar.
If you lose your job, can you go back in the timeline and find a different job or not lose it?
You can absolutely do that.
You can go back in time?
You can not only go back in time, you can go into other lifetimes where you've experienced a life. We don't know it because we don't know we're doing it, just like we're somewhere else. We don't know. I know I'm here. I know I come to the cafe a lot of the time, which I love. But if I if I forgot this and I showed up, because it may be a timeline where I want to go into another one, you don't remember. But if you don't remember, you don't know. So it's simple.
So Sally, are you picking the timelines as you sit here?
Absolutely, but we don't know that, because for anybody to interrupt and go into our own life and create what we should do, it's kind of forbidden. You don't do that. You mustn't do that. Because we have free will. So people talk about, well, talking again about aliens, because it is a very hot topic right now. They come in, but they really can't determine. They can help us, but you can't determine. It's complicated, but it's not, because the more I'm listening, the more I'm understanding. It's like Aldo's back in my life showing me what programs to listen to. It becomes complicated but it's as simple as we want to make it. Let's say that. You can't take too much in, because our mind would explode, even with me. I mean, you can't.
So what are those little voices in the back of your head? Like I was 8, and I was on a bike, and I saw 4 guys coming down the hill, and I knew they were going to steal my bike. But did I listen? No. And they stole it.
Well, that's a very good example of what I talk about. We need to listen to our gut. Doesn't matter where it's coming from. We may not understand it. But if we get a message like that, we need to follow that message. I mentioned that many times too. You're in a car and it tells you don't want to turn right, you should turn left. Go with your gut. It doesn't matter if nothing happened, but at least we're doing what we're feeling, which is very important, very important. It's hard, there are many things that are very difficult to explain, but if we can accept more, keep that open mind, you'll find you're going to have a wonderful journey, much better than what we even imagine. It works. It works. We're here. Let's enjoy it.
Sally, the more you practice this, do you get better at it?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I'm not about ego in any way, and I always say that. But the more that I have opened up my mind from, say, 20 years ago to now, it's amazing what I'm beginning to understand, because I'm practicing it all the time. I have a couple of shows down here I'm on. Even just on your shows, in your lunchtime show, I tune in and I'm going, did I really say that? It's hard, but practice makes perfect. So the more you just start in the very beginning and say, I'm open to anything. You don't have to even believe it, but just keep your mind open, because you know what? A month or a year from now, if you listen to that same thing that you heard, it's going to make more sense. Practice makes perfect.
But if you open yourself up to a lot of things, doesn't that kind of open up a vulnerability for you too?
Well, it depends what you really mean by vulnerability.
Well, I mean, if you allow yourself to be open to a lot of things, aren't there a lot of forces out there that can also...
Well, actually, that's very good that you said that too, because you really, really, once you follow this, you need to protect yourself. If it's a prayer, if it's whatever you feel that's going to protect you, because a lot is our mindset too. So if I felt, which maybe we do have actually little candles here. So if I say I need, because that's my form of protection, whether it works or not, it works. It'll work for me if I believe it.
But you need some sort of protection, right?
I recommend that, because the spirits are like us. They're playful. Let's not even say that they're bad spirits. Yeah. They're playful. They'll play tricks on you sometimes. I'm not scared, and I think the fear will bring in certain things too. Fear, because that can stop a lot of things happening. I mean, I've had some pretty strange things, and people have seen that happen to me. It's not me just imagining that. So, but I'm not fearful. I don't believe, I'm really not frightened, because I feel that as positive and staying as positive as I am, it's the same as here. If you feel that something bad is going to happen to you, think about this. Oh, I feel really bad about this. I'm not always, but it's more likely to happen that you fear it is going to happen. It's the same in the spirit world, or with spirits coming to you. I'm not worried about it. Yes, I have Aldo, who's been my guide here, and is also on the other side of this, who protects me. But things happen, but I have to believe that there's a reason and a purpose.
But Sally, if you pick wrong, or you do something that's hurtful to you, Are you constantly going to be picking the same wrong? I mean, when does it stop?
Well, yes, but you know when it begins to stop is when you recognize that. And you can know that
it's
you
wrong.
can change it.
If you're in pain, you know it's wrong if you did something wrong.
If you're in pain, you mean not.
In other words, let's say you picked the wrong path to follow.
Okay.
And then you do it again. And then you do it again. I mean, you're constantly doing what you shouldn't be doing towards yourself.
But by then, Freddie, if you're aware of it, you're going to open your eyes to that and say, why does this keep on happening to me?
But you continue to do it.
Well, that's up to us too. It's a lesson that we need to learn.
But then my question is, these other frequencies that we have, is the lesson learned in those frequencies?
The lesson, you're not going to graduate to another frequency until you've gotten over what your karma is basically here and you start to change it. We can change anything. If you believe that, then that situation that keeps hurting you or you keep hurting yourself can change. But it's not going to change until you've learned that lesson.
Okay.
And that lesson might be for this vibrational energy, and you can't take it to the next vibrational energy.
Well,
something else will come up.
They say
Does that make sense?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
And that's so true, because exactly what I'm saying. You can continue doing it in this lifetime, and guess what? You're going to bring it into the next lifetime. So if you open your mind up and say, why, even just why does this keep happening to me? It can be anything. It can be a
What about living in guilt, Sally? If you're living in guilt, is that good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, it's not good. Because you're going to continually, many situations and circumstances are going to show themselves with what you're feeling guilty about. It doesn't just stop there and saying, I'm living in guilt. You'll have other situations showing you that same guilt, whatever it is.
What if the guilt is not even real? You're just manifesting in your brain that you should feel guilty for all the wrong reasons.
That's up to us, Freddie. We still have free will, and we have a path that we can follow that doesn't have to have that guilt in it. But if you're not aware of it, it will continue. And that's not always our fault because we haven't become aware of it. But the more you begin to learn this, little by little, as Alda used to show me, that situation will still show itself. You know why? Because you're going to have to recognize it the next time around and see something else happen that's very similar to the situation that you feel guilty about. It'll keep showing itself until it doesn't. But to start this, you have to be aware of the situation that you're guilty about, what you're doing, and change it. Does that make sense? Oh,
Yes.
this person is really strong with me.
It does, but it looks to me like the lesson learned is not the guilt, is the reason why you choose to be guilty.
Well, we have a choice. With
You
anything,
do.
we have a choice. And if you keep doing something that you feel guilty about and you're aware of it, why would we continue to do it? Yes, we do. And that, I can say that. It's not as easy, as accomplished
It's part of
as
being human.
It's part of being human. It's part of our learning experience to grow. And I know what I was going to say before that I forgot. This earth is very difficult. Someone said it's like everybody that's here. We all have problems. It's like we're getting our PhD to graduate to another dimension because we have problems. And you know what? That's helped me a lot too, because the harder it is, the lessons that we learn are coming about. We need to change that so that we can graduate to another dimension in a different frequency. So the way that person said a PhD, it made sense to me because I'm aware of it. Otherwise, it would have gone right over my head and I'm not learning anything.
PhD in energy frequencies. Do you want to take a commercial break?
Okay. Thank you. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. This is getting interesting.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came into the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and a grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the 3rd dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest into art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed a paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she is able to astral a project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life and direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today, authorhouse.com and amazon.com.
My story starts at 4 or 5 years old. My name is Sally Barnard, and I was born at the end of the Second World War, in the middle of an air raid siren going off. My parents were in a movie theater, and my mother went into labor. My father ran out of the movie theater, but there was no cabs to be available because everybody is running for cover. However, they found one, and the taxi driver was given the address to take my father and my mother to the hospital. As my mother was in labor, about a half an hour, I arrived at exactly midnight. I think I was fed messages at a very early age. My parents used to like to play cards, and they had a card game every Wednesday or Thursday night at home when I was a baby. And I actually said to them one day, "Why do you keep waking me up at night? The card game is waking me up, and I can't get back to sleep so quickly." And they looked at each other and they said, "We're not really waking her up." They were quite away from my bedroom. And they called in a psychic to say, "What in the world is going on?" And the psychic said that I'm getting many messages that are waking me up at night. I thought whatever I was experiencing, other people were experiencing too. You don't know until you realize that you are different. Many things were happening to me, things that were unexplainable to me. What I had dreamt was happening. I could sense many things, and the things that I was sensing were coming about, but something was going on. I will explain to you everything. You're ready. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book at authorhouse and amazon.com, or visit my art on my clothing in my boutique at artbysallybarnard.com. Now back to the show. Hi, welcome back to the second half of my show. Questions, please.
You were on a roll. All right, so the question out during commercial break was, can you find love again? Or the first time? Not you, but people in general.
Right.
If you're married, you're
I
in
would
love.
just say it wouldn't be an appropriate
Let me clarify, not
question for
Sally,
me
but
to
in
answer.
general, other
Yeah.
people.
Yes. You know, I feel but the person that asked that, you're right where you're meant to be, okay? You still have a little bit of it. He doesn't want to hear it. You still have a little bit of learning to do, and then the right person, and maybe you have met the right person, come back here, listen to me. Okay.
Yeah.
It'll show up when it's meant to show up. Now, can you speed it up? Yes, by believing you're either with or you need to find someone else, and you want it now. It'll happen. You may not be ready.
Do you feel that circumstances sometimes will define, if you're with somebody, because some people just give up. They say, this is too much work to try to find somebody or something. But I have a feeling that if love is going to find you, it will find you.
Well, I have a girlfriend who has really wanted to find love, but she sits at home and she doesn't go anywhere. So I've said to her, you will find love, but don't expect love to come knocking on the door if you're not out there meeting people. You have to put yourself out a little bit. And then if it's meant to happen, a stranger's not going to suddenly knock in front of your door and say, "I'm in love with you." And this is what
Right.
I guess you.
But I mean, you can find love online.
Well, but you're making the effort. You have
Well,
to.
you're doing it, yeah. Exactly.
And I believe it works absolutely that way. I mean, you have to maybe meet a few people, but it can work that way because you're putting that energy out and you're putting into the universe. And on the other side of that, so is the person that you're going to be meeting.
Right.
So if you think about this, the two can connect. But if you were decided that you understand what I'm saying and you're going, that can work, and you sit at home and you don't go into the internet, then the person that might, not you personally,
No, I understand.
is putting that out there, they're going to meet somebody else with that same energy that's already put themselves out there on the internet.
That's true.
Now, do you find love always that way? No, it could be going into a grocery store.
You never know where it's going to...
But you have to, well, I say you, not lightly they're going to knock on your door, but maybe it's a delivery man or something, I don't know.
Well, you know, I know myself in my lifetime that I've never found love twice in the same place, you know, in the same circumstances.
Because every situation is different, and then every timeline is different, which we were just talking about. But you never know. As long, it's the same as what I'm talking about, Jay. As long as you keep that open mind, if you suddenly say, I'm never going to find love.
Well, then you're never going to find love.
There you go. That's what we're really talking about. It works the same way in life.
If you open yourself up and you want to find someone and you're really sincere about that, there's someone there.
Absolutely. There's somebody for everybody.
It might not be just an easy circumstance that you just, oh, here you go, I just met you, now we're just going to, you know, go off and live happily ever after.
You have to work at everything anyway, and that includes finding love.
Right.
It's just not, the person can appear, but if you don't work at that, or you call them once a week and you have this feeling or whatever it is, or I can't say it's not going to work, but it's more likely to work if it's the right thing and you put time and effort. You have to put time and effort into stuff, because if you don't, it can still happen, but you know what? You appreciate it more when you've put some time and effort into whatever it is. I feel that way. I mean, it may not be for everybody, but I think that's part of it. Thank you for the question.
Never too late to find love, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. No, age is just a number. And it's not even that. You know, I was thinking about a little while back of learning maybe Spanish. And I'm going, well, I only have a little bit longer here. But you know, what we learn is, I may not remember it in another life, but part of what I'm trying to say is what we learn in each lifetime doesn't disappear. Aldo used to talk about, I think he used to call it a super consciousness. So every lifetime, everything that we've experienced is there. Now, if you haven't evolved enough, and I don't know if I have to remember all that I'm talking about here, I have no answer to that, I don't know. But just know that it is somewhere. It's like unlocking it again in each lifetime, because we do choose to forget, because we wouldn't learn if we didn't. If we didn't forget, what is the point of keep coming back? We need to learn these things. So as you're learning, it is somewhere in your being.
Well, once again, getting back to, you know, the love situation, I think that was like you were saying before. If you close yourself off and say, I'm not going to find anybody, then you're not. But if you open yourself up and you say, I want to find somebody, then, you know, it's on how you interpret.
Well, I have to compliment you on listening to what I've been talking about during the show, Jay. You've done a good job, because that's a perfect way to explain it. Absolutely. We're using love, but it works for anything. And thank you, because you can see that, you know. And my job also is to continue learning, but it's also to open people up, because if it's going to make your life, be it love, be it anything, a little bit more simple, follow and listen. I do, and I'm listening now more myself. Thank you.
I think, though, a lot of times it's not exactly the way that we thought it was going to be.
No, of
you
course
know,
it's
I mean,
not.
you know, I mean, we can design our whole life as we're going to do it, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen that way.
Well, there's two sides to that. Yes, we do design. I believe we do, but we're also open to change. You know, and again, if you going back to the timelines, if you take a timeline different to what you think it's going to work out, but that timeline, if you still want it to work out, might benefit by changing a timeline.
It can take some turns and changes.
Absolutely.
And you know, if you're so rigid that you can't change, then that's going to be a problem.
Well, it's you're going to stop learning. It's not necessarily maybe lessons that we need to learn, but isn't it better to know that we're learning lessons as this happens?
Absolutely,
So if
absolutely.
this same thing, feeling guilt even, if we're aware of it, we're more likely. It's kind of like going to a therapist. I mean, what does you talk with a therapist, but they're opening your mind, if you think about it, to what your problems are, so that you can see them. I mean, that's not the only job a therapist does, but as I'm
Right.
talking, they're showing me that as an example. So the more you talk about it, you're opening your mind up, and maybe there's a better way of doing what you keep doing. It's the same thing. So if you keep doing the same thing again and don't change it, the results are going to be the same. So once you tap into what I'm tapping into, you begin to see how much sense that really does make.
But Sally, looking for love is a clear indication that you have to learn something about yourself.
It's a great way of learning something.
Because you
about
can't
yourself.
fall in love if you really don't understand who you are.
Exactly. And you also, if you have this not understanding yourself, you're out there, you don't know necessarily what you want in a partner. So if you know more about yourself, you're more aware of what you're really wanting in a partner. I mean, kids, when they're 16, 17, they don't really know themselves. You know, they call it whatever they call it, young love, puppy love, whatever it is. But as you mature, and people that get married young, and I was an example of that. I was married at 19. I don't have the same views on life when I'm 30, and I'm still with the person that I was when I'm not using that part as an example, but it did work that way, actually. You're not having different, you learn more as you go through life.
I think the two people together have to learn together through life, because if they don't, that's going to be a problem.
And it is. Unfortunately, we have a lot. I'm not saying that's the only reason for divorces, because how many times have you heard we met when we were young, but we've grown apart? But
Right.
that actually is true. I mean, you may share a lot of experiences and you may still care
Yeah.
about each other, but you have different, as you grow, you're learning.
Right.
So you can go different paths.
Right,
So
and
people do grow away.
because I think if you're, when you're 19, you're not the same as when you're 35.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Jay. Absolutely. Now, some people it works for. It doesn't. I mean, what I'm saying doesn't apply to everybody. They grow old together. You hear many
Yeah.
people have been married 60, 70 years.
I know. Well, an example of that, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were married for 67 years. And he just passed away this last week. And she has never been alone in her life. And so it's making it very difficult, because she doesn't know how to live on her own now. And she has her family, her children, to help her, but it's not been a thing that she's
And
really...
I'm sorry for your loss, which I had said earlier, Jay, but the thing is, if you begin, yes, I mean, it's sad, because my niece just lost her parents. She died, her mother, and then her father died like about a year later, and they'd been married many, many years. But they had a good marriage and everything was great. But it works both ways. I mean, I can't talk for everybody. I mean, everybody is different. But I guess the point that I'm trying to say is, as we grow, we learn. And it's up to us how much we learn. I mean, I've chosen this path, and I want to learn very much. Now, I could have had a partner, which I'm not together with my first husband, who would have had no interest whatsoever in this. And could I change him at that age? No. So my life today really has to be shared with someone that understands, how much Steve is understanding.
So many times I've thought, if I could go back and talk to my 19-year-old self, what would I say? I mean, there are so many things that, that would be different, because I have matured. I've gotten a lot wiser. I know so many more things now than I did at that time.
And bringing that back into maybe the topic of the show, which is a good way to see that, is that when you take this path, that's basically what we're doing. It could be love, it could be learning more, it could be timelines. But the more that you present that to yourself on a learning journey, which we are all on, the more it begins to make sense. The more you're going to meet or see things that I always call synchronicity. I used to call it coincidence. Today it's synchronicity, because we attract. It's the same thing with love. We attract what we're putting out. I want to learn more. I want to do more. I want to meet more people, which I'm actually learning, and I feel them. They come into the studio today without going into the whole thing.
Yeah.
An amazing thing happened. But how many times does this happen in the studio here? Because I'm putting out a certain vibrational
Right.
energy. It's not about love right now because I recently got married, and that would not work with Steve. But I'm just saying that as a joke.
Yeah, but no,
that's
true.
how it works. Right now, it's where we are in life. You will find, as long as you believe it, that these situations will show up to the best that they can to help us on this journey. And that came through very loud and clear. As long as we keep an open mind with positivity, then we are halfway, well, not even say halfway there, we're beginning our journey. Thank you, Jay.
Synchronicities. So do you think that's what's going on? Do you think people are still looking for love, energies, new jobs, with the changing scope of what the landscape looks like right now?
They are, but you know, we're inundated with so much negativity that sometimes we can't see what we're even looking for because, you know, I mean, it's not news because people know they turn on the news and there's so much going on. I mean, the world is changing, but on the good end of this, it needs to change. So as we're changing, things change even in our lives because the world, let's say the universe, is picking up the energies of that change. So whilst we may not think we're changing and we're thinking so much negativity is going on, in order to change, you have to get rid of all the negativity.
Right.
And in order to do that, we're going to hear a lot of negativity here, which we see.
But don't you feel too that there's like a butterfly effect? If you start something positive, that it's going to start to carry over?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is what I'm trying, you know, hopefully on my show for people, as myself too, and all of us. If you start on the positivity and you truly believe that, you will continue. Are we going to get other things happen? Negativity? Yes, of course. But I love to say that out of negativity comes positivity. But you've got to see that lesson. Because you can keep saying, why does this happen to me? And I could say, you know what? I'm bringing this until I learn it, which we were just talking about with the guilt.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to do, and the only thing that I can do also, is to keep this open mind and stay as positive as I can. And if something negative happens to me today, I truly do this quite a bit. There has to be a reason that happened. I never used to use negativity like that. I
But
used to
kind
say,
of look at it and say why, you know, maybe explore that.
Exactly. It's very, very important because otherwise we're wasting that particular lesson, Jay. You see? So yes, we've got to have negativity in order to learn. Because if everything was all clear sailing, we wouldn't be learning that lesson.
That's true. That's true.
All right, you've got a few comments. Change is also not in 1, 2, or 3 spiritual progress, and learning abilities can take many years.
Absolutely, of course it can, and it can take many lifetimes too. But again, the most important part of this whole thing is to be aware that it's happening, because otherwise you're missing that opportunity to either correct it or to learn from it.
Is transcendence possible as it is? Is it possible to leave Earth with your body and transcend elsewhere?
I do believe that it is. I think that it's happened. I mean, which I call flying, I've astral projected. There is what we call an astral plane. So yes, you actually leave your body. You do leave your body, but you come back into your body unless it's your time. So yes, we can travel. I've experienced this many times, which I put in my book. So my answer to that question is yes, we do travel.
So he says, to know more than everything, you have to forget everything and start at the beginning of where you started.
Absolutely, yes.
When you can't see anymore, you have to be less than to be able to learn more.
Yeah.
You have to understand what you do not have. When I am God and I have it all. You have to be human. So I guess what he's saying is you have to learn from where you are.
Yes.
But you also have to forget to learn, because if we came back into a new lifetime knowing everything, then what would we be learning?
Exactly.
So we have to start
I think
again.
we talked about that because, yes, it happens because we choose to forget. But when we've reached a certain level, I'm not going to say you're going to, and I love that, the way that whoever that was, thank you for writing that in, because it's important what that message is. If we remembered everything, we're not going to learn. So we'll only bring in perhaps what we're meant to remember for this lifetime. Because if we remembered everything or all our lives, it would be impossible if everything came bombarded to us. But thank you for that. That was great. And I think we're coming, we have one more minute. And I thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Please tune in next week, and we'll have some, write down your questions for me if you have my book. Maybe there's things in my book that you'd like to know.
And how do people get your book, Sally?
They can go into Amazon. It's right there. You can even get the e-book copy.
What's
of
it
this.
called?
It's called Call Me Zena. And I'm also opening my website soon. So I'm going to have my art on clothing, which should be in the next few weeks. So I have a lot of things coming out there, and I'm really excited. So I hope tune in next week, and we'll continue this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you can always seek me out for resources by visiting artbysallybarnard.com. Join us next week, Mondays at 2:30. Have a blessed day.